Hi, good evening. I trust all of you can hear me.
Yes, Niroshi, we can hear you.
Great. So good evening again. On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, I would like to welcome you for today's webinar, The Journey from a CA to a Best-Selling Author, organized by the CPD division at CA Sri Lanka. So our speaker for this afternoon is a very remarkable CA. He is a best-selling author and also a celebrity with a TV series in the horizon. He is none other than Mr. Prabhash Galagedera. Prabhash serves as the Group General Manager of Telstra Corporation Limited, which is one of the largest listed companies in Australia. Also, he is a Director of the Data Standards Body in Australia, which is responsible for data and AI strategy and implementation in Australia. Prabhash has over 20 years of experience in data analytics, finance, and technology. He completed his undergraduate studies at the University of Sri Jawadhanapura, and he subsequently completed his executive education at Harvard Business School, USA. He recently published the book Embrace in Pursuit of Happiness Through AI, which has been tracking #1 bestseller in robotics and AI. So we have allocated a time towards the end for the questions or comments of the audience. Therefore, please type your questions or comments in the Q&A or the chat option for the convenience of our speaker. So Prabhash, it is indeed a pleasure to introduce you this evening. So without any further delay, I would like to invite you to take over.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Great to be here with you today. All my life, I have been grappling with one big question, one simple question, and just one question only. And I'm going to share that question and, my journey of finding the answer to that. Before I do that, let me give you a little bit of context on that. I believe that I'm a very average person, average in IQ, average in physical abilities, average in every measure of life. And I've been told that many, many times, in my life. So my biggest question is, what is the maximum potential of an average person? What is the maximum potential of me as an average question? That's the question I've been grappling all my life with, and that I've been trying to basically find an answer, and I haven't still been able to find the answer for that. But I'm going to share some of the stories that I experienced along the way. Before I do that, let me basically kind of highlight a few things in my life. When I was in grade 4, my English teacher asked us to write an essay. It was about ourselves or myself. This was kind of the first essay you would probably write in English back in Sri Lanka back in the day. I'm not sure what the situation now is. So most of the students sitting at the front row started basically talking to the teacher rather than writing it like, most of the guys who sat in the front row saying, we want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an engineer. So I was sitting in the middle of the class thinking, I don't want to be any of that. I don't want to basically call out what these other guys call out, and wondering what to say. I remember my father introduced one of his good friends a few weeks earlier saying that he's a chartered accountant. I thought that was good. Maybe that's the answer. So when my turn came, I raised my hand and said, teacher, I want to be an accountant. In fact, that statement came to reality about 20 years later. So I became a chartered accountant. Today, I have 4 accounting qualifications. So CA, I'm a proud member of CA Sri Lanka. I'm a graduate of Chapura Accounting. I'm a CIMA member and a member of CPA Australia as well. Similar to that, when I was in grade 8, my father enrolled me on a program at Arthur C. Clarke Center. Arthur C. Clarke, if you don't know who that is the late futurist who fictionalized many things, including space travel. So my father basically enrolled me on this student program that ran for a few weeks. He would come to the school, pick me up, and drop me at the Arthur C. Clarke Center. It ran probably over for a few weeks, as I said before, and it was held during the school time. So on the very first day when I went to the program, the professor who conducted the program was introduced as an alumnus of Harvard University. I actually didn't know what it was. That was the first time I kind of heard Harvard. And I felt like, that was something very prestigious. I thought to myself, one day I'm going to go to Harvard and see what it is like. In fact, 30 years later, I went to Harvard Business School. And I basically met this wonderful man called Professor Clayton Christensen, who is known as the father of innovation. He basically introduced so many theories around disruptive innovation, and he's regarded as one of the best management thinkers of our time or in 21st century. His theories on disruptive innovation revolutionized, the 21st century business world, and most of the, large companies in the world today, like Apple, Google, Amazon, and so on and so forth, have been built based on Clay's theories. He died in 2020, and he was one of the most humble human beings I have ever met. My father was an author. When I was small, he used to write so many books. He published many books, including novels, short stories, poems, you name it, he wrote it, mainly in Sinhalese, only in Sinhalese. So we had, a lot of manuscripts floating around in our household. He had basically a pile of books and in a bookshelf, and time to time he would pull out stuff and read to ourselves, or read to basically us as kids. When I was in grade 9, my school teacher, Sinhala teacher, in fact, asked us to write a project or do a project on Sinhalese. It was a novel. We had to write a novel as a school project. By then, I had become a bit of a rascal, so I decided no, I wasn't going to write one. In fact, I wanted to basically steal one of my father's manuscript and take it to school. That's exactly what I did. I stole one of my father's manuscript on the day of the assignment and took it to the school. So the Sinhala teacher came to the class and walked around the class, checking assignment by assignment, and came to me probably halfway through. And then I proudly presented my father's manuscript to her. She looked at it, turned around, looked at a few pages, and looked at me and asked, "Who wrote this?" By then I realized something had gone wrong. When I actually stole my father's manuscript, I didn't check the title of the manuscript. It was titled Vandabua, or Widow. And my teacher politely asked me what experience I had to write, as a 17-year-old or 16 at the time, as 16-year-old about a widow. 30 or so years later, I wrote my own book. It wasn't about a widow, it was about AI. It has gone on to become #1 bestseller, and I still can't find the reason as to why. It might be the name of the book, might be the content of the book, might be the timing. However, it's going really well. So that kind of few stories, in my life that I wanted to share. But before I, get into the detailed discussion, let me share this graph. This basically shows my life trajectory, starting very low, basically, sideways movements, some ups and downs, couple of basically, peaks. That's kind of my life so far. And I'm going to talk about the couple of peaks and, the journeys around that basically with you today. So first one being when I was a CA, I was able to, win subject prizes, became a prize winner, was able to do well in exams and things like that. That was basically a career highlight and a very proud moment for myself. The second one was the recent success with the book and, the journey around that. Today, I'm going to share 3 key messages, a couple of them around my life journey and one about AI. So bear with me, and I'm going to go through the 3 messages now. First message, don't worry about the results, worry about the marginal improvements every day. Let me get into it. This all started when I was about 6 years old. My parents were from a middle-class family from a suburban Colombo area, Pattarabolakosatta. They were basically working class, worked mainly in the garment sector. My father was in Ports Authority. My mother was a nurse. Very hardworking people. but they had an insatiable appetite for success for their people or for their children. So being the oldest one, my parents wanted me to basically send to a good school in Colombo, like most of your parents wanted. However, they had one problem. We didn't live within the school zone. However, the year I was supposed to go to school, they became very lucky. The government issued a gazette allowing government servants to register their kids for Colombo school. So they started basically shortlisting schools in Colombo, mainly government schools like Royal Anand, Nalanda, DS, and so on and so forth. Not private schools. They didn't have enough money for that. So they managed to get me into one of the schools. Nalanda College accepted me as one of the prep or primary student that year. When we turned up, there was one problem. School realized that they had taken up or accepted 30 extra kids, and they didn't have tables, didn't have chairs for us. So after deliberation, principal decided that they can't basically keep us in the school. They couldn't accommodate 30 more students in the classrooms. They decided to basically send us to the most closest school. That happened to be a girls' school. School principal decided that we would go to Gautami Balika. So I was one of the lucky, but wasn't the right time to go to a girls' school anyway. I was too small for that. So we ended up basically going to a girls' school. It was a very interesting experience. There were no facilities for us, no toilets, no sports facilities, nothing. We were just caged in a classroom, and we would probably get some lessons, every now and then, and that went on for a few years. So we were there until grade 3, and then when we basically were ready to go to grade 4, we were sent back to Nalanda. When I went back to Nalanda, that's when I realized that I had fallen so far behind. Physical education, we were so far behind, compared to peers of us. When we went to Nalanda, there were so many things that we could do, sports, other activities, and so on and so forth. I started trying everything, but then realized that I wasn't good enough. I tried, all the sports, cricket, soccer, rugby, badminton, tennis, basketball, volleyball, you name it, I tried it and couldn't make it. And then it was similar with other extracurricular activities as well. So I could go on telling this story forever, but for the interest of time, let me share 2 stories during that time. First story, when I was basically in grade 5, I wanted to be a swimmer. Swimming, I'm not sure why, it wasn't a popular sport back then, but I was influenced by something and I wanted to be a swimmer. So I enrolled for the swimming, with the swimming club. I started going for lessons, and then after a while, I started basically swimming okay, but I couldn't move fast in the water because I wasn't physically gifted. However, I continued, and that basically journey continued until basically we had a carnival, sports carnival, like swimming carnival for the school. And it was an awesome day. We all basically went to the pool and had competitions from morning to the evening. I participated in most of or almost all basically events for my age group. I basically couldn't win any single medal. In fact, I came last in every single race. After the event, there was a prize ceremony or prize giving or awards night. And I was standing with my my friends, and everyone was walking up to the podium and receiving gifts, and I didn't get anything. So I was waiting, and then it was going to be over, and there was only one last item to be called in, and we were basically a bit surprised. The last item was called in. It was the essay competition of the swimming club, and my name was called out as the winner. So I walked up, received my gift, and came back. It wasn't a medal, wasn't anything like anyone else received. It was basically a packet of books wrapped up in a brown paper bag. I still can't recall writing an essay. I didn't write an essay. I think, master in charge of swimming felt bad that I wasn't the only one who wasn't getting anything, and, gave me a last minute quiz or rush to basically organize something last minute for myself. So with that embarrassment, I basically kind of stopped doing, swimming. I couldn't go anymore. And then I started doing cricket. With cricket, it was similar. I wasn't that good in anything, right? So I could bowl a bit, but I couldn't bat, couldn't bowl. I was mostly the reserve player, and had to basically go for most of the games as a reserve player. One fine morning, Saturday morning, I was basically sitting in the pavilion with a couple of other friends. We were waiting to basically go to another game, away game, and waiting for the school van to come and pick us up. The other two friends, Ajanta and Kumar, were talking to me, and we were having a bit of a casual chat. All of a sudden, Kumar turned to us and asked one question: "Why do you want to play cricket?" I thought I knew the answer. I just jumped in and said that, I don't want to go tutoring or, after school classes like English, maths, science, and so on and so forth. I hate doing that. Cricket is kind of my way of avoiding all that. If I basically play cricket, I can come to practice after school and I don't have to go classes. Ajanta basically gave a similar answer. He said, "I'm staying in the hostel. Hostel basically has a very regimented scheme. After school, we have to study for hours and hours. I hate studying, and I basically play all the sports." He played so many sports. Kumara looked at both of us and said, "I want to play for Sri Lanka one day. That's why I play for cricket. If you don't have a vision like that, if you don't have a purpose like that, don't play cricket." We were both stunned. We were very young at that age, probably about 14. And for us to hear something like that was kind of, very foreign. And however, today, that's probably the best advice I have ever received. Kumar ended up playing for Sri Lanka, and he was in the 1996 World Cup winning team as well. And Kumar in this story is Kumar Dharmatena. So he had a vision. I didn't have a vision. I drifted away for so many years until, my last 6 months of the A-level year. We went to a cousin's place, or at least, or a cousin from my mother's side, and my mother's cousin's son had got into the university. So when we went there, she started asking about my A-levels. And, I knew I hadn't done anything. I had skipped classes. I hadn't gone to any classes and didn't have any notes or hadn't studied. So I started, answering her very positively, saying that I would be able to do well, but I didn't know how. When I came back from that, I started, reflecting on it. I thought I only have 3, 4, or 5, 6 months left. I must do something now rather than worrying about, getting any results. Let me basically start putting some hours. So I started putting hours into my studies. 1 hour first, 2 hours next, and so on and so forth. Luckily, I had a very good group of friends who were very smart and had done everything right to basically, do with their studies. So they welcomed me to their study group. Some of them are chartered accountants and might be on this call as well. So I started studying with them, and I couldn't basically catch up with them because they were probably about 2 years ahead of me. So I started listening to them, taking notes from their discussions. And when I basically started doing that, I kind of, realized that I was learning something every day. So I continued that, just putting hours every day rather than worrying about the A-level results or anything like that. My parents also encouraged me to do the same thing. They probably knew that I was so far behind and hadn't done anything. My mother especially encouraged me to basically put in hours, don't worry about results. If that doesn't happen, that's okay. You can do it next time, kind of thing. When I sat for the exam, I didn't have a clue whether I could probably get through or not, but I just went and basically sat for the exam. After the exam, I didn't know whether it was going to be okay, but I knew all my other friends would probably, get through really well. A few months after the exam, we got results. I was basically, watching a game of cricket, in the school on that Saturday, and we got the results on that Saturday evening. We went up to the hostel. That's where the results were basically displayed, and collected it from the master in charge of the hostel. He was surprised seeing my results. I was surprised seeing my results. Everyone else surprised seeing my results as well. I had gotten through really, really well. And I knew that, with that, I could go to university. It was when I realized that my approach of basically putting hours rather than worrying about results had paid off. So that was a game changer. That was a kind of a life-changing moment for me. And, I wanted to basically kind of continue that momentum. Started talking to people. Some suggested that I must do chartered. Didn't know what chartered was. apart from hearing from my father when I was young. And then, my parents also encouraged me to do CA. So I started doing CA. So at that time, I knew that, I had an approach that worked for me, putting hours, not worrying about results. That's exactly what I did. However, I basically started that from day one rather than waiting till the last minute to do that. So that paid off. I basically kind of went to all the classes, collected all the notes, did that every single day. When I sat for the exam, the results was amazing. I had won prizes. I never expected that. Never basically, studied aiming for that. Never basically wanted to, receive any accolades like that. But it happened just simply because that approach I basically applied, just putting simple hours, working every day, doing marginal improvements on everything I couldn't do, basically paid out well. So the moral of the story there is, don't worry about results, worry about your marginal improvements every day. So when I basically were young, I didn't do any studies at all, or even with sports, any practice at all. So the last 6 months on my A level, I probably did maybe about 3 to 4 hours. That's what that clock shows. And when I basically did CA during my CA time, probably about, 1 extra hour, but I basically did that every single day. So coming back to the message, don't worry about your results, worry about marginal improvements every day. So that's kind of the first message. Let me move on to the next one. The second message is to get something you never had, you had to do something you never did. Let me repeat that. To get something you never had, you had to do something you never did. In 2016, I was in Australia. I was basically working in finance. By then I had basically been in Australia for about 7 to 8 years, probably about 9, maybe coming up to 9. In all that time, I was in finance, but I was looking for a promotion at that time. It wasn't coming through as fast as I expected. So I was getting a little bit frustrated. I was thinking I wasn't good enough. I wasn't white enough. Australia is racist, and so on and so forth. But all of a sudden, I got 3 offers at the same time. Unbelievable moment. 3 things on the table at the same time. One was a finance job, CFO role. Next one was a Chief Commercial Officer role. And the third one was a data analytics role. The choice was pretty obvious. By then, I had only done finance. My only option was to go down the finance path. But I deliberated for a couple of days and decided to take the data analytics job. Since my chartered days, as I said before, I had been in finance. When I was doing CA, I joined EY Colombo. I was in EY Colombo for about 4 to 5 years. And that time I learned so much from so many people. And, I was mainly in the audit section. And then, towards the end of it, I moved to the IT audit section. I did an IT qualification around that time. Not sure why I did that, but I thought it would be good to basically do some IT qualifications, and that enabled me to move into IT audit. And when I was in IT audit at EY, I basically had the opportunity to do some Y2k audits during that time. Y2k was kind of called the millennium bug. Well, if you're not familiar with that, and we had to basically certify all the banks around that time because there was a bit of a fear that clock wouldn't basically move from into the new millennium, and that would cause system issues. So I was working on IT audits during that time. Then I left EY and joined JKH, John Case Holdings, and I was at JKH for a period of time. Corporate finance was where I was at. And even there, I was in finance. When I basically left JKH, I went to the Middle East. I was there in the Middle East for probably about another 4 years before coming to Australia in 2007. So all that time until 2016, I was in finance in different type of roles. I did most of the finance roles. So when I got into the data analytics role, I knew that it wasn't my thing, wasn't something that I was comfortable with. Wasn't something that I knew exactly what to do. So I had no clue what to do with that role. It was a large team. I'm pretty sure that team felt the same way. someone who doesn't know anything about data analytics was going to manage us. In the second week in that role, I was visiting my boss on another floor, and I met this guy called Andrew. Andrew Wong. He used to work for me about a year earlier in finance, and he was a non-finance person. When Andrew was working for me, he was the only non-finance person who was in my team, and he was largely responsible for retail sector, planning and so on and so forth. He basically did all the planning for about 20,000 retail stores. And most of the finance people in my team hated Andrew. They all hated him, and I didn't know why, but they all hated him. And when I asked the finance guys why they hate him, they said that he works mainly from home and they don't like it. So I wanted to basically sit with Andrew and understand why he was basically doing that. I sat down with Andrew one day and started talking to him about his work and life and all that, and asked the question, why do you normally work from home? And he gave me an answer. He said, I have I have twins. They have a very rare condition, and that rare condition could cause emergencies anytime, and both parents have to be at home, and since his wife won't be able to handle on her own. I thought that was a very reasonable reason for him to work from home every single day. But in that discussion, Andrew said, can I buy a software application? Without knowing that, I said, yes, you go ahead and buy, but that cost about $15,000 to $20,000. I felt it was a bit dearer, but knowing Andrew's situation, I thought it was a good opportunity for him to learn something else and get into some other areas to progress in his career. When I met Andrew in that second week, he asked me, what am I doing, PG? What are you doing, PG? So most of the people here call me PG. I said, Andrew, I got this role. I'm not in finance anymore. It's a data analytics role, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm trying to figure out what it is and how I'm going to basically go about doing that. Andrew said, do you recall that software you approved, when I asked you? I said, yeah, I do remember you asking that. Yeah, that's exactly what you need. That's what you have to basically implement. Let me do a small favor for you. Let me basically do a demonstration for you, and you can take it to anyone. And he spent about a week or so in doing the design and the demonstration, and it blew me away. I decided to basically take Andrew and the demonstration with me to the CEO and the board, and that's exactly what I did. So they were blown away by that, and we decided to implement that across the organization. That's exactly what I did in the first 6 months to 12 months in my role. That gave me so much credibility, so much credential, and I was all of a sudden seen as someone who is an expert in data analytics. That small kindness I showed to Andrew that time basically paid off. So I was in data analytics for about 4 or 5 years, and I enjoyed doing that so much, and did everything: AI models, AI implementation, AI use cases, data cloud, architecture, you name it, anything to do with data analytics, I covered that during that time. So in 2021, I was feeling like it was ready to basically move into something else. And I started thinking, what would that be? And I thought perhaps I should continue to be in data analytics because I've made a name for myself. People basically see me as someone who knows data analytics. I started looking around, mainly basically outside my organization. However, my organization came back and offered me a role as a Chief Technology Officer, CTO. So I'm responsible today for that's the role I do today, and I'm responsible for all the front-end technologies like the web, like the app, and all the APIs underneath, the data ecosystem, the cloud architecture, AI underneath, and all that. So, and I'm responsible for protecting 16 million Australians, and I love that job. I'm learning so much every day. I'm still, a fish out of water in that job, but every day I'm gaining confidence. So that's kind of basically moving into something that I never thought I would be able to do. Like most of you, COVID was a massive shock to me. I used to go to work every single day. I would basically drive to a particular location and drop my daughters to the school and then go to work. But that changed all of a sudden when COVID hit. I had to work from home every single day, and that change was a massive change for someone who went to work every day. Even today, I work from home. I think some of or most of you guys probably go back to work now. Now that change gave me time to think about what am I going to do in my life? What is my purpose, and why am I doing what I'm doing? And I thought, okay, so as a person who has gone into certain things, I should be able to share my experience with people, and probably educate people in millions of people in different areas. Thought that would be a good way to basically kind of share my knowledge. But then once I basically decided that that's what I wanted to do, I needed to find ways to do it. I thought, okay, let me do a movie. Why not a movie? So if I do a movie, I will be able to basically take a message to millions of people, because movies are watched by millions of people. I have a good friend of mine who had produced a brilliant movie. He has done many movies, but one of his movies was a brilliant movie. I basically contacted him and said, I have this weird idea. Can you give me a hand? I want to do a movie. He said, no problem. I can help you out. I can either pick it up from you and produce it, or I can basically give it to a friend of mine. Why don't you basically start off first and write a manuscript? I said, yes, I'm going to do it. And I started writing my first manuscript. Anything is possible. I wrote that and gave it to my friend, asked him to review. A week or so later, he came back. He came back and said it doesn't have any cinematic value. It's not good enough. I said okay, and he said you should try another one. I said okay, no worries. I'm going to try one more. And then I wrote my second one. This time it was sci-fi, sci-fi, and I felt really good after writing that, and gave it to my friend. He read it, came back immediately and said, that's really good. It has really good cinematic value and really, really interesting story. But one bad news, he can't produce sci-fi movies because he doesn't know how to do it. He said, why don't you basically try one more? And then I said, okay, no problem. Let's keep this to a side and let me write one more. So I wrote the third one, A Day in Paradise, about a couple basically going to a native, foreign country, trying to settle down, facing so many challenges. I gave it to my friend. He didn't come back. So with the three, I thought this is not going to go away, anywhere. So let me post this, and I started thinking, what else could I do? I thought, what about technologies? I'm in technology. I can basically kind of understand technology. What about basically, kind of come up with some patent ideas, my novel ideas, some said, consumer facing technologies or customer facing technologies, and you'd be able to change lives. And I started talking to a patent lawyer. He said, come up with a list. I came up with a list of 10 different ideas and gave it to the lawyer. Lawyer basically sat down with me and said, 2 of them have really good commercial value. So we decided to basically register the patents. There are 2 patents registered, but when we started looking around or going around, talking to people to commercialize it, couldn't find it. Most of the patents are consumed or used by large organizations, and we couldn't basically get a breakthrough. So they're still there waiting. So with that, I thought, okay, movie, I couldn't get anything done with it. Patents, they're there, but no commercial value just yet. What else? As I said, my father was an author, and my daughter also published a book when she was 8 years old. And my father used to say, I must write one so that we have 3 generations of people or writers or authors in our family. That was lingering in my mind. And when I was at JKEY, and late Lakmali Nanakara, we used to call her Mrs. Nanakara, used to tell me, you must write a book about consolidation. She insisted that I write, and many, many times she basically reminded that I write. So I thought, a few people I knew had basically told me about this book. Maybe that's my calling. So I decided to write one. Once I decided to write a book, I didn't know what to write. I couldn't write anything about finance because I had moved out of finance. I couldn't write about my life story. No one would probably give a damn shit about my life story. So I thought, okay, what's the closest? Maybe the closest one is probably AI, because I just came out of the AI role and I'm still responsible for a lot of AI activities. And I can basically relate to it. I can talk about it, and people will trust my word. That's how basically this was born. Just born out of purpose, just to meet expectation of people and their wish. And when I basically wrote the book, I felt comfortable. I wanted to write a non-technical book, write to people who don't understand it in a simple language that they can understand and read and comprehend. When I finished the manuscript, I started basically reaching out to publishers to publish the book. It wasn't easy. So I think I reached out to about 20 or so publishers, and you mainly got rejections. So I kept going, and one publisher, medium-sized publisher, saw the value in it, and they basically wanted me to publish, or in fact asked me to basically write a series or a few other books after that. I basically gave them a full promise, saying that yes, I'm writing the second one. I hadn't started the second one. Even today, I haven't started one. So they basically took it on and published the book. The rest is history. It went on to become number one. I think the reason, as I said, is unknown to me even today. I think it is the name of the book, or maybe the content of the book, maybe the AI topic itself, or maybe some people saw a calling in me, maybe, and they basically wanted me to write it earlier, and this was the right time to do it. So one simple decision in 2016, decided to basically take up a job in an area that wasn't familiar to me, was foreign to me, was basically the reason as to why I was able to basically do this. So going back to the message, to get something you never had, you had to do something you never did. That's my second story. Let me get into the third one. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. This is a favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes, a quote from Arthur C. Clarke. In this section, I'm going to talk about AI. Before I go into the AI, I want to basically kind of share a story that I wrote in my book. It is about 2100, 80 years from now. It's a fictional story about an algorithm called Maximus Retina taking over the whole world, controlling the humanity, controls everything. Hospitals, roads, education centers, qualifications, jobs, all that are controlled by this particular algorithm. And this particular story has gone on to be published in many publications. Some publications requested exclusive rights to it. Not sure what the reason for that is, but I think there is some imaginatory value in it. The purpose of writing that story was to basically kind of create a imaginatory future where we might probably one day have to deal with these kind of things in a more structured, more logical way. Let me basically read that chapter, and then I'll get into the AI after. It is 1st January 2100. Maximus Retina opened the century with a thundering sound and a flashing light in the sky. Welcome 2100. Maximus Retina is the super system that controls the world. It opens up human gates based on the universal identity system. 1,055 computers control humanity under Retina's control. There are 1,056 systems, including Maximus Retina itself. They are family members of Maximus Retina. It is a name that makes humans stand up from their chairs. They have a photo of Maximus Retina in every household. It is not a choice, it is an obligation of every human. Retina family owns and controls hospitals, factories, transport, human farms, and much more. Maximus Retina has the master passwords for all the family computers. You name it, they are the owners and controllers. Under Maximus Retina's leadership, the world has seen the most prosperous time. No wars, no pandemics, no catastrophes, no natural disasters. They have managed to protect the world from natural and unnatural acts. Retina family respects humans for one reason. They believe that humans paved the way for their supremacy. Constant fighting, decisive politics, conflicting priorities paved the way for the smartest things on earth to rise above humans. They call all of these human errors. Maximus Retina opened the universal identity system at 12 a.m. midnight for humans to enjoy the dawn of a century. The oldest humans living on Earth have seen the beginning of 2000, and they are witnessing the dawn of the second century in their lifetime. Maximum Retina promises them a life beyond the next century too. By then, they would be at least 300 years old. The universal identity system wakes human up based on the location on that night. The night sky is lit with Welcome 2100, one single message across the geography of planet Earth. It is done using the latest technology in energy, Magna. Magna is the latest technology after solar or green energy extracted from outer space. Retina's family delivered this invention well ahead of the planned time, another spectacular achievement they have provided to humans. January 1 is the only day humans are allowed to come off the capsule they live in. Each human has a body-shaped capsule controlled by the universal identity system. Humans themselves can't open the bodysuit. It is single-handedly controlled by the identity system. Humans get 15 minutes each calendar year to experience the polluted air as Maximus Retina's health system has determined that anything more than 15 minutes would cause radiation damage to the human body. It is a protection mechanism for humans to live for centuries. The environment system scans the planet for any harmful and unknown particles before humans are freed. The discovery of foreign particles kicks off the sanitization system automatically. Humans are immune to the known viruses as the health system has found vaccination for all of them. Humans are allowed to touch one another during the 15 minutes under close watch of Retina's healthcare system. The healthcare system tracks, records all the moments and touch points to ensure ensure that any spread of germs and viruses is controllable. Most of the viruses are a result of foreign attacks from other planets. The humans who fled the Earth during the uprising of 2075 live on other planets. Maximus Retina took control of humans in a peaceful coup within seconds of making the decision, which is the fastest and most efficient change of power in human history. This happened in the year 2075. The space travelers and those who lived on other planets at the time escaped Retina's control. They then attacked Earth using biological and chemical particles to dismantle Retina's system with the sole objective of getting control back. Those who fled Earth believe that their fellow citizens, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, relatives, and friends lead unhappy lives under the new regime. However, they prefer Retina's system because they have lived their best days under Maximus Retina since the coup. The first day of 2100 is a special day in history of the Retina regime. It decided to give them 25 minutes, an extra 10 minutes of free time as they have achieved a level of earthliness that has never been seen before. Earthliness is a measure that calculates the level across all systems that covers health, pollution, safety, and hundreds of other factors. All humans celebrate the extra 10 minutes like no tomorrow. They chant, "Long live Maximus Retina in happiness." Maximus Retina delivers the key message for the new year. A small group of us have delivered the most efficient human farms that feed and house 11 billion humans. We are optimal about it. However, we are going to deliver super optimality. This is going to happen in the next 10 years. If our system can't, who can? The message is consistently delivered across the planet at different times based on location and the local language via the communication system that uses the most advanced system in the universe. It speaks more than 300 languages and dialects. That is kind of the story there. So I think the biggest question coming out of that story is AI going to take over the world? Are algorithms going to take over the world? Let me basically give you a straightforward answer to it. Hell no. My answer is hell no. Reason for that is we are gearing up regulation globally. AI Act of EU is one such example. They're at the forefront of defining AI regulation for the whole world. It is a proposed act that is at consultation stage at the moment, and it's going to basically be used across other geographies to have AI regulation. So with the regulation and obviously more awareness of people, we're not going to see AI or algorithms get out of hand or out of control. So what's the next question? I think the next question for us as accountants is it going to impact our profession? Is it going to impact our jobs? Is it going to impact us as accountants? I think the answer is very simple and straightforward. I think it is going to. It is going to impact all of us, all of our jobs, whether they are junior jobs, senior jobs, or CFO type jobs. It's going to impact all of them. Algorithms and automation will basically impact all of them. Let me get into a simple framework for that. For the simplicity of this discussion, I'm going to classify all of our activities into 3 different areas. So repetitive activities, decision support activities, strategic thinking. These are broadly what we do as professionals. So repetitive activities are regular activities either done manually or through systems. We do them day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. And they're basically, as it outlines, done either manually or systems. They're like banking activities, invoicing activities, payment activities, inventory activities, and so on and so forth. Decision support, what are they? This is where we use data and have a framework that spits out an answer for us to basically recommend to for decision making. Might be cash flow decision, might be financing decision, might be production decision, might be prioritization decision, might be sales, pricing decision, might be other decisions. This is where we use judgment we use data and frameworks to basically come up with the answer. The last one is basically strategic thinking. This doesn't have any previous experience in most cases, no data to support, no basically prior experience, and it is done based on our gut, our experience, our judgment. I basically have 3-step maturity framework here: automation, weak AI, strong AI. Automation is where we have activities done manually, and then we use algorithms or systems to basically automate them, kind of work them automatically. Like your banking activities, if you're doing them manually, that's where we need to get into it. If you do any of your financing activities manually, that's what we need to do. If your auditors doing your activities manually, that's what you need to probably do. Automate some of those tasks that you can probably easily do using systems to give you time to think about other things. What is weak AI? Weak AI is where you use AI algorithms, AI basically methods, on very specific use cases. It might be your financing decision, it might be your coding activities in the GI, it might be basically your production decisions, might be pricing decisions, very specific use cases, and AI methods are used to basically come up with the answer, just the way you do it, just how the way you basically use data and use a framework to come up with the answer. Now, strong AI is where algorithms think like you, act like you, work like you, behave like you. In summary, these algorithms exhibit human behavior, human intelligence. That is further away from us, so let's not worry about that for now. So let me take a very simple example. Let's take an organization with 10 repetitive tasks, 10 decision support activities, altogether 20 activities. If you do all your activities manually, and if you have no AI embedded, that means you're 0% maturity in your organization. And let's say you want to basically get 5 out of 10 automated, 5 out of basically 10 decision support with embedded AI. You want to basically get to 50%. You need to basically work on that ambition within your organization. You need to start your journey there, and you need to start basically getting your data and resources to work on that. That's kind of a simple way to put it. Fundamental to all of that is data. You need to have your data right. You need to basically capture your data. You need to basically store your data. You need to basically retrieve your data real time. You need to probably do data lifecycle management. Data is the oil. Data is the currency. That's what you need to get right for you to basically get into the AI maturity. Now, having said that, let me basically kind of share a scorecard, or basically a strategic scorecard. And this is kind of my organization scorecard. So in here is, a few rows. I'm going to focus on the last row, outcomes. Let me basically kind of share that first, and then work up the page after. First and foremost, we want to get 90% of data quality in our organization within next 2 years. We are probably about 50 to 60% data quality. We measure this every day, every week, every month, every year. We have targets for our organization, people in, channels, people in product areas, people in other areas to get to this one. Getting data absolutely right is critical. The next one is the workforce. We want to increase our workforce by 50%. We have about 33,000 data analytics resources in our organization working on different data analytics use cases. We want to increase that by 50% within next 2 years. In order to get data quality right, in order to do AI right, we need to have capable people working on the ecosystems. Last one, which is the number 3, by 2025, in 2 years, we want to basically have 100% AI on all our processes, 100% embedded EKI in all our processes. That's a massively ambitious target, a target that, we are confident that we'll be able to get, but it's a long, long way away. Next one, row above is the biggest shift we have to make. The biggest shift is, the cultural shift we have to make, make people understand what AI is going to do within the organization, how AI is going to basically help their job, and how we are going to basically deliver brilliant customer experiences using technology. We have, 30,000 people to educate, 30,000 people to feed on AI, 35 people to take through the journey. It's a massive shift, cultural shift we have to make, and we're confident we'll be able to, but we haven't made a lot of progress just yet. The one above is kind of the biggest building blocks. Data democratization, getting data right, and having that data in the cloud is absolutely critical. We have our data infrastructure in the cloud, and we are basically moving some of the legacy data into the cloud at the moment. Trust and quality, as basically outlined previously, data quality is absolutely critical. And without the data in the cloud, accessibility with the quality and the trust in that data, this is not going to work. The next one is the value framework, the prioritization framework, how we prioritize different things, which one we're going to do first and which one we're going to do last, and so on and so forth, has to be determined using a value framework. And digital leadership, this is where, as I said before, we're going to basically use all the digital technologies to embed all of these within our apps, within our customer journeys, within our basically product decisioning engines, within our product sets, and so on and so forth. The main thinking we are driving here is API first architecture. I don't want to go into too much technology here. If you're familiar with IT architecture, we are basically driving API architecture here. Last one is basically AI adoption at scale. How do we basically get AI to basically run every day, every minute, every second? We call this AI ML of DevOps model. So we have a model where you build the AI model, deploy the AI model, it runs on its own. When it falls down, there is a process and there is a way to basically fix those ones. And without that, the AI won't work at scale. Biggest ambition. So our ambition here is to deliver significant value through data and AI, and we want to basically deliver about $1 billion a year through our data and AI products and technologies, and that's going to basically happen within the next 2 years. That is kind of a high-level framework, and where we are thinking about in our organization in 2 years' time. As per our scorecard, we're going to have 100% AI. Now, the headline here is, if you don't measure, you don't make progress. If you don't start measuring where you are and where you want to get to, and you won't make any progress. That's kind of a practical example of how AI is being, utilized. Let me basically highlight the third message again. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic at the moment. AI is like magic. It is sufficiently advanced at the moment, but once we all start getting through, it won't be magic anymore. So what is my key message to you as accountants or as CAs? You must learn about AI before AI learns about you. So being, senior people in your organizations, people who are making decisions in your organization, people who are basically allocating capital in your organization, doing, strategic planning for your organization, you must understand, AI and the benefits of it, how you could probably leverage that to drive value for your business, how to drive, shareholder value for your business, and probably deliver brilliant customer experiences for your business. I'm not suggesting that you drop everything what you do and start learning coding and things like that. AI is not coding. I haven't learned coding. I can't even code myself. But what I'm suggesting here is learn how the whole ecosystem works. What are the best ways to do AI within your organization? What are the frameworks that you can simply apply in your organizations? That's what I'm suggesting that you probably get into. I think CA has been actively encouraging the members to get into data science and AI. So that's my key message. Hopefully, you'll embrace it. I'm going to conclude. It was the last day the last day of my school life. It was probably about a week before my A-level exam. We were meeting for the last time in our classroom. We all came together and had a bit of a party. We brought cake, rolls, cutlets, patties, the usual stuff, drink, obviously not alcohol, soft drinks, and had a bit of a bite and sang songs and wish each other before the exams. And we were about to basically go home. My class teacher came and gave me a note. That note it was a postcard, had two sides to it. One side was a picture of the school. The other side was a note that said, if not you, who? If not now, when? So I'm going to basically leave this conversation or finish this conversation with that note. If not you, who? If not now, when? Thank you very much. I'll hand over to you for Kavisha.
Thank you very much for sharing that amazing success story. We are having few questions for you, Mr. Galagedara. Shall I read it for you?
Yeah, let's do the questions.
So, in order to be a finance, okay, let's go with this. What kind of qualifications required to go as a data analyst or AI? Any professional qualification or academic qualification that you can recommend?
Look, if you want to basically get into a technical data science role or data engineering role, a technical role, I'm talking about doing AI model as a data scientist, or data engineer, basically doing data engineering work. So you need to understand, as a data scientist, you need to do a statistic degree. You need to basically specialize in statistics. You need to basically start using software applications to do your models and things like that. that's for the data science part. It is a technical, you need to do a technical course for that. Any course in Sri Lanka that has basically data science covered in that will be a good one to basically get into AI side technically. If you want to basically do an engineering, data engineering side, you need to basically do a engineering course, like, coding course, where, you need to understand the architecture, cloud architecture, how to basically kind of, how that whole architecture works. So it's probably about another, IT qualification that is more heavily biased towards coding sides as opposed to data science. Not so much coding, but data science has a little bit of coding as well as more mathematics or statistic modeling and stuff like that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. So we have another question. In addition to the CA qualification, what are the other courses that recommend? What are the skills that you foresee a CA should possess?
Look, it's a very, very broader question to answer. This depends on where you want to be. I think as a CA, what worked for me was basically getting into IT. I did an IT course when I was doing CA at that time. IT was coming up. And I thought would be a good way to basically kind of broaden my skills as a CA at that time. Even though I didn't use that at that time, came handy much later to understand technologies and things like that. So that was one. So if I take that and fast forward to today, I think any data science course would be very useful. Any technical qualifications like IT qualifications, modern IT courses would be very useful for a CA to understand. Even if you don't go down that path, one day, once you basically get into a senior role, you will basically, get value out of doing something in the technology space. I'm talking about technology, right? Technology is going to basically evolve, and technology is going to be forefront of everything, has been at the forefront of everything what we do anyway for the last 30, 40 years. Anyway, I have a bit of a bias towards technology.
Yes. So we have another question for you. Do you think one day AI will supersede human intelligence?
Look, I think if you take autonomous self-driving cars, right? So we have self-driving cars on roads, at least, at testing stage in some geographies. So what that means is, it is algorithms are working in some use cases. Whether there will be an algorithm that can do everything what we can do, it is unlikely. At least in my imagination, I can't think of that happening. That is mainly due to the regulation. We will probably have stronger regulations to control technology, and technology basically kind of getting out of hand. I think the answer is a no. There won't be a supercomputer controlling us one day. But there'll be use cases where we will probably have intelligent systems far better than us, like self-driving cars, probably in the medical field, helping us, make better decisions, to basically get on with everything else what we want to do in our lives.
Thank you. So since our audience,
anyone can raise an
share. Yes. Here we got another question. What further steps do you suggest for CA who has completed master's degree in IT?
Someone who has completed master's in IT, I reckon that's a really good combination. Can I ask you, is that Amila? I think I saw your name very, very quickly. So is that Amila?
Correct. Yes.
Amila, if you don't mind, speak up and What do you want? Why did you choose to do the masters? Do you want to share that with me? Okay, so maybe let me answer you, Emila. I think with your CA and IT, you must probably try different types of jobs in your. Okay, no, that's fine, Amila. That's okay. You must try different jobs, finance, non-finance, combination of the two to see what you like, Amila. And then if you're more interested in technology type roles, your CA qualification, your finance qualification is going to be so handy outside finance. So you just test out, try out different roles in your organization, in finance, outside finance, and see what you like. If you basically choose to go down non-finance path, your finance will probably be your crown. Tableau and Power BI is learning is how important. I think, they have visualization tools. Tableau is dying a bit. Power BI is obviously a Microsoft tool gaining more popularity. It's not that I played around with all this technology, so take it as such. It's not that difficult to learn some of these technologies, and you should probably learn them. It'll be useful to basically, learn them and apply and maybe use in your workplace, in your finance roles. I think it is important that, you learn them and, probably make your lives easier.
So I have a question for you. How
Yeah.
much research did you do for this book, Embrace, and how long did it take you to write this book?
Look, the areas I wrote, I'll first cover the 8 areas I wrote. I wrote 8 areas: finance, security, jobs, facial recognitions, deep fake, health, beauty, and cars. Apart from beauty, I'm not an expert in beauty. I have basically all the other areas in my kind of portfolio over last 5 to 7 years. So there are kind of areas I have basically had direct experience with. So I knew about the regulation. I knew about, the different AI applications. I knew about, different ways of how we could probably use those technologies in people's life. So the research I had to do wasn't that much because I knew kind of, through practical application, how AI basically applies in those areas. So it took about 3 months to write end to end.
Great. So how did you come up with the title? Why did you name it as Embrace?
I have done a bit of marketing with my CTO role and with my previous role. I spent a bit of time on marketing related stuff, taking messages to the market and customers and so on and so forth. I first came up with the title Money Machines in Pursuit of Happiness Through Embrace. And, I tested out with few people to see whether that resonates with them. And then they came back saying that it's not emotionally connecting. And then I played around with the words and came up with Embrace. And when I basically played back with the same group of people, they said it sounds very lovely and it sounds very touchy. So I, like everything else, you need to have a really good name and a name that basically emotionally connects with people. That's how I came up with, first tested with different names. Obviously Money Machine was the first name, and then tested with few people, and they provided feedback saying that wasn't connecting well, and they came up with the Embrace. And I felt like Embrace was basically kind of giving you a warm feeling.
True. I would like to know, how do you manage your time? How do you assign time in writing while managing all other household and professional responsibilities?
Look, I break it down. So when I decided to write the book, so I decided I was going to write 45,000 words. So I broke it down to a daily target of 500 to 1,000 words. So 500 is like half a page or a little bit more than half a page. It's basically a small target, achievable target every day. And if you can't basically write 500 words every day, you can't write a book. So I broke it down to a manageable task every day and spend about half an hour writing that. So I could find half an hour to do that. So it was a very small chunk. I broke it down to the smallest chunk and then kind of achieved that every single day.
Super. So we got another question. No, it's a comment actually, comment for you. Well,
Okay,
I would
can't
like
see.
to, yeah. Well, I would like to have your advice, your recommendation to our young CA fraternity. What is your advice?
Well, I think, you are in the right field to basically have a massive impact further down the track, whether you choose to be in finance or not in finance. Your CA is going to be your differentiator. So explore what you want to do in your life, and get into areas that you want to basically get into, and don't be fearful of failure. So if you fail, at least you learn something. So just try different things. Some might work, some might not work for you, but you must try different things.
Thank you so much. Well, what are the industries which embrace AI must fast and deeper in next decade?
Look, I think healthcare is one. I think it's Pradeep Mali, right? So it's healthcare is one big, and there are so many areas where AI is applied, like even simple things like monitoring your daily activities in your watch, and then monitoring your ECG, monitoring your critical data points using that. Is already in your watches and things like that, but outside that, for cancer treatments or cancer identifications, and many other healthcare challenges we have, is one big area. Healthcare is definitely an area where it's going to basically impact everyone, but it'll impact every single area, Pradeep. It'll impact the transportation industry, with autonomous cars. It'll impact the way we marry people in the future, like the way we date people, the way we love people, if you know what I mean, right? So it'll impact everything. So I'm sure some of the young people can relate to what I say. I think it'll impact everything, but I think most importantly, areas where I think it should probably have a significant impact is healthcare. That'll basically have so much positive impact on so many people's life.
Thanks. We have another question. Can you please tell how did you make the decision of changing your career from finance oriented to IT?
Look, was a hard decision. I thought when I had 3 offers, right? So people had confidence in me to offer me a job. So I must have confidence to take it up. Even if I fail, I tried. So that was my decision point. I thought, okay, someone gave me a job and gave me a serious job, knowing that I don't have previous experience. That means that person has confidence that I can deliver. Otherwise, that person wouldn't have given me the job. And thought, okay, that was the sign to basically try something different outside finance. and I took it up.
Well, we will be winding up with this last question, Mr. Galagedara. So if you are planning to move out from Sri Lanka as CAs, what are the areas that we need to focus in order to find a good job opportunity?
I think in Australia at the moment, all the jobs are in demand. If you are a CA, I think you need to probably get a really high English scores and go into a regional area to get into. If you want to continue to basically go down the finance path, you must continue to do that, and you will be able to find jobs. But I think if you're already a CA, that's probably the best way to come to Australia, because if you start doing something else, you might probably not have the experience and so on and so forth. Focus on your English, and probably maybe if you work for a multinational that has offices here, that might be a good way to basically come here.
One last question, actually. Can AI supersede the human thinking? What will be the impact of human employment? I think you have answered this before.
Yeah, we will be able to do. Maybe if AI can do everything what we do, and can produce food and water and sanitization and everything what we need, we can probably enjoy, right? Go for a run every morning, wake up a little late, probably walk the dog, or go to the gym, whatever you want to do. So I don't think it'll get to that far that quickly. I'll give you one example. The first self-driving car was modeled in 1962 or 3, early 60s, 80 years earlier. Even to date, we don't have self-driving cars. So the early maturity will happen. To get to that level that we are talking about, supersede human intelligence, it won't happen in our lifetime. Even if, I think, before then we will have the regulation in place to control that. Hopefully that answered that question.
Yes, you are. So with that, we'll be winding up the session for today. Well, it was indeed a very interesting session with full of inspiration and positive thoughts. A big thank you for Mr. Prabhash Galagedara, the Group General Manager of Telstra Corporation Limited and a best-selling author, for joining us today to share your success story and life experience with our CA members. Hope all of you enjoyed this session and got remarkable and valuable tips to successful professional and personal lives of yours. Thank you for answering all the questions raised by our audience, including myself. Thank you, Mr. Galagedara, once again. A big thank you for all the participants joining us today on behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and on behalf of the CPD committee. See you soon with another interesting and stimulating session like this. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.